Dice, yeah, ay, ay.
Good day and welcome. I'm William, narrator for the FYI I'm Damaged podcast. What if beating cancer once and living with it now forces you to realise that surviving and actually living are two different things? Bron Watson, marketing agency founder, registered nurse, mum of 5 boys, international speaker, cancer survivor, warrior, who went from running a business through chemo infusions to realising her obsession with delivering for everyone else was quietly destroying her. We get into the moment she saw herself on a Facebook Live mid-treatment and knew something had to change, and how that reckoning became the Serenity project, and a new way of doing business that puts self-care, boundaries and humanity back at the centre. This is the FYI Am Damaged podcast. Now a word from our sponsor.
Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strengthen their hearts. Logan, the strong-minded little elephant, by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of FYI I Am Damaged. I am joined by Bron Watson. Thank you for joining me. And Bron, you're a businesswoman, 2-time cancer survivor, founder of the Serenity Project, and an international speaker. What else can we discover about you for this introduction?
That's a really good question, and thank you for having me. What you may not know is that I've actually had a dual career for over 30 years in marketing and nursing. I'm a registered nurse and nurse educator. So I have had the privilege of being on the side of a bed. And now I've had the privilege for the last 8 years to be in the bed. And so with that, I'm a mother of 5 boys. I'm married to beautiful Paul, and we live here in Australia. And, I think as life goes on, especially when you've come from a profession like nursing and then you're moving into that entrepreneurial space, there's so many lessons in there, but the main thing that always comes back to is self-care and looking after ourselves. It's my personal thing, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Absolutely. And I don't want to offend any military personnel or anything like that, but with nurses and people in those fields, nurses and hospital workers, thank you for your service, because I know that's not an easy job. You give
No, it
so
is not
much,
easy.
you give so much of yourself to help others, and it's a selfless profession. And thank you so much for providing, I'm sure, wonderful service to individuals that have crossed your path, and I'm sure you've returned that as being a patient as well.
I have, and thank you. Yes, it is. It is not easy. It is not easy, and it's tough over time.
Yes. Now, you said there were a moment when survival wasn't enough anymore. Tell us about that wake-up call.
Survival. So I'll take you, just put some context.
Absolutely.
So picture that I have had a diagnosis of breast cancer, and I had built an incredible business, really. And so I'd been in business for a number of years. We had the children, diagnosis, 6 days later, surgery, 3 weeks later, chemotherapy, on we go. Not a lot of time to process, not a lot of time remembering. I know what's happening, but I don't know what's happening in here. So to catch up with what's going on is quite confronting. And so here I am running my business, and I had this belief that I had to deliver what I said I was going to deliver when I was going to do it, no matter what. I wore it like a badge of honor because I was so invested in being the best I could be for my community. And I'd had my second round of chemotherapy and 4 hours. And they, not only when you have chemotherapy, you have a lot of other drugs so that you don't react to that chemotherapy. So you end up on drugs for the side effects of the chemotherapy, but then you end up on medication for the side effects of the drugs for the side effects. So it's just this whole big, massive mess at the time. So I'd done that. So I had medication because I was starting to become a little bit sensitive and allergic to to the chemotherapy. It was so ridiculous thinking back. And I was doing a Facebook Live because back in the day when this was all going down, Facebook groups were still really big. And so I was doing a Facebook Live into my group because I was delivering what I said I was going to deliver. And I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I'm bright red, round, no hair, turban. And I caught a glimpse and I looked at myself like this and I went, do you want to die? Because if you keep this up, you are going to die. And I literally shut that mentoring business down overnight with no plan. But I knew that if I was to survive, let alone remembering I hadn't even gone to thriving or survive, it was just literally life-limiting, life-changing moment. And terrifying, but instant. No, I don't want to die. I shut that business, that whole segment of my business down overnight.
Wow.
With no plan, no financial plan.
So
but it was either me or the business. And I went, can't do that.
That is a very strong decision because a lot of people would bask in the worry of what's going to happen next. And it seems like you put yourself first, which is what a lot of people don't do.
No, and I'm so very glad I did. I had no solution at that time, but what I did do is that I looked at what I had in my toolbox of what I could bring together. And with a background in marketing, I knew a lot in that space. I'd been teaching people how to build online, businesses for years. So I looked in my basket and I went, what is there that I can deliver easily that is not going to cost me? And I'd done some training with this most incredible lady she'd been part of the team with Barack Obama's second social media campaign. And I'd worked with her for about a year, learning the ins and outs of social media, because just because you know marketing doesn't mean you know social media. So I'd done a lot of learning and with her. And so all I had left was I started running 4-hour Facebook workshops. And that's it. It's all I had. I'd started working locally where I live here in Port Macquarie in New South Wales, Australia, Oscar, and I'd never worked locally because I never had to. So I didn't have a network. I had deliberately avoided working locally because I didn't need to. I'd worked across the country. I'd worked around the globe. And here I was doing Facebook workshops in Port Macquarie and being told I couldn't charge what I did, but I did. And it worked. And I did that for probably 18 months.
Wow. That's
so
impressive.
It's fine. It's all I had. I didn't think of it like that at the time. But the lesson, if listeners are here, is when adversity strikes, just look at what's easy in front of you that doesn't require learning new stuff, that doesn't require money. Because I had the IP, it was all in me. I just pulled it out of what I had. And I think that's hard sometimes because you're grieving I was grieving many, many things. Was it fun? No, it was not fun. It was hard. I think chemo was a Thursday. And I think I would run the workshops either on the Tuesday or the Wednesday because it was weekly chemotherapy. And I remember looking at photos of myself and I was embarrassed of what I looked like. I shudder to think what I sounded like. But I delivered. I still have those beautiful, amazing clients as friends and clients today. But it's just doing what you can with what you have.
Absolutely. Now, when you were dealing with the medical system, now you know it from the inside, and how did that shape the way you experienced becoming a patient? Because a lot of people don't know the working part of it, they only may know the patient part of it. Now you're both sides of the same coin.
Yeah. And remembering I had been teaching at university clinical subjects. All right. So I'd been teaching second years nursing, Bachelor of Nursing students, and at TAFE as well. So to be a patient, especially when you know what should happen and when it doesn't, I think everybody should be their own self-advocate, first things first. Now, yes, I can be a better advocate because I know what's going on. But the way I liken that is when you are in an adversity, mine was a cancer diagnosis, I didn't want to be a passive bystander and just allow a system to suck me in, because it feels like what happens is you just get put into this massive big, merry-go-round, and you just go round and round and round, and you can't control a lot of it. And that's where I started to learn about serenity. Now, that came from that very, very old prayer from Alcoholics Anonymous. It's like nearly 100 years old, but that was the only thing that kept me sane, because it's God, insert whoever you believe. God grant me serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that is where I started to look at, well, what could I do? So rather than being a passive bystander, I am absolutely my advocate, and I'm an active participant in my treatment. And that is why Serenity Project was born, because we have silos in medicine. We have alternative therapies. It's all therapy. It's all treatment. It's not an either and an or, it's an and. So I call it the third space, where we have science and soul, evidence and perspective. Because when you're in that space, it's very, very hard to see out of it. So when I'm the patient in the bed, I made sure I was the good patient, but I knew exactly what was going on not only now from a clinical perspective, but also from a physiological, a mental, spiritual being. And I realized, even though I had empathy and I had cared, I was always about caring and looking after our patients, how we are just so vastly separated to the human being that lies. For me, can't talk for anyone else. For me, for that patient lying in the bed.
And I understand, because I suffer from Crohn's disease, and I've been a patient many times.
Yes,
and
you have.
and it makes the difference when, even if a nurse is not nice, it is still a wonderful thing when they're kind in their care, because they do have to deal with their side of it. When they walk out of that uh when they walk out of the room and they're done with me, they have God knows how many patients they need to look after. Who knows how the doctors are that they're dealing with, and or even the working environment. But when they come through, I like, which ones are the really good ones, and the ones that are like, they handle you with, I guess, like ham hands, and it's like, okay, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not really feeling that well. And you may have dealt with patients who were going through this whole thing, and I can really tell, like, who are the really caring ones, and that makes the difference to a patient. And it's not like a nurse should be a patient to really understand, but it's
No, they shouldn't
everyone.
have to do that.
No, no.
And that is why back in the day, my very first business was actually called Nurse Power, for this exact reason, because there are those who are still committed to the profession, and there are those who are either burnt out, had enough, who really should go and change jobs. But if they're a shift worker, they're gonna struggle financially, where they're gonna find something that with the skill sets that they have. So I couldn't agree more with that. And what happens now, because I do get the nurses who are burnt out, I consciously choose to find compassion, to go, man, and go, how are you? Are you okay? Put it back on them. Because they know how to care. They know exactly what they should be doing, but they've gone beyond caring. And it's empathy. It's not sympathy. Like they're always an arm's length, but it doesn't mean that there's one thing that if I could go back to my younger self, all I would do, because you can't fix everything and nurses like to fix everything, is to just acknowledge, I'm so sorry you've had this diagnosis. I'm really sorry. I don't know how many people I sent off that I was a part of the team that sent them off to the Cancer Institute or wherever. And that's one I would say is acknowledge. And this goes for everyone. We can love people through it. We can acknowledge what they're going through without trying to fix it, because you can't fix many things. We can't fix your Crohn's, but we can have acknowledgement and go, oh, that sucks being a patient. I'm so sorry you've had to go to hospital that many times.
Yeah.
Because I hate going to hospital.
Me too.
I just like it. Nope. No.
There was a time when my son got hurt and he had to spend a month in the hospital. And the surgeon that was looking over him and performing the surgeries for his leg, he made 100% recovery. And when he was going through one of his procedures in the hospital, and I walked out of the the family waiting room, I saw the doctor, and because he was doing something else, a test, and I see the doctor walk in the hallway, and I say, "Hey," and her name's Dr. Lotus Carr, and she automatically went into doctor mode and was explaining like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and this and that. And I was basically like, yeah. I said, how are you doing? And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, you're going through all this stuff, you're dealing with patient after patient after patient, and then you're dealing with parents, and those parents only want to know, and rightly so, like, what's going on with my child? Are they going to be okay? Can you explain to me what's going on? Now, I didn't have that level of worry because he was on the upswing and on the mend. So I said, how are you doing? And she stopped. She's like, nobody ever asked me that. Like, she had a moment and she's like, nobody ever asked me that. I'm like, well, they should. You're a human being, like, are you okay? And, there's a little part of me is like, I want to know the person who is repairing my child if they're okay. I don't want somebody to put a face on me saying, okay, we're going to do this. I'm great. And XYZ, and go into the room while, like how I say, when I interview people, who walk the world looking normal, but they have a storm behind their eyes.
Yeah.
And I checked in with her. I said, how are you doing? What's, everything good with you? And, talk with her. We spent about like maybe 5-10 minutes in the hallway talking. And, she just found a sense of like, wow, like the face change and everything. And, she's a really good person. And, I'm going to interview her soon if she says yes, but she agreed. But then I kind of let my own thing get in the way. Like, life gets in the way, and I'm back on it, so we'll see how it goes.
Get her on there, because it's great to hear another perspective.
Discovering
of
somebody's
life.
Humanity. Yeah,
correct. Well, we are all humans. That's the whole point. And that's what happens, I feel, for medicine, is that or the health profession, is that it loses the human being behind the lab test. So I actually said it to my specialist this week, where I'd had a phone call from a younger doctor who had not prepared for that call and just gave me what she thought she had to, which was, here, this blood result's out. You need to take this medication. Where do I send the script? I went, no, hang on a minute. Why? Well, it could be that. And I'm going, well, I've never had this out. Why? And so I actually gave feedback. I said, look, I'd like to give some feedback, is the way I like to word it. I'm giving some feedback. And I let my specialist know that I said, please, could you please ensure that your team understand that there is a human behind that blood result. And there's all these parts too. So it's communication. It's just straight communication. But if we all sit back and say, no, it's okay, it's just doctors. No. They're humans too. And they may not realize, because it's like you just said, imagine the pressure and what they're experiencing to do like they're almost like mechanics. They're fixing people. So to me, for people who have adversity with illness, I say be the CEO of your body. You're the CEO, and then you have your executive team, and then you have, for me, I have specialists. So the executive team can be whatever's important to you, such as I've got this great functional lady doctor that I've met from Brazil. She's up there. She gets a vote. And then my own doctor, my local doctor, she gets a vote. And then the specialist. So who are the people who are helping you make the decisions for you? Because whatever decisions you make are right, versus, so you took that route, did you, Bron? Meaning chemo. Yeah, I did. And you're having a judgment? Why? Why are you having an opinion? Versus, hey, that is fantastic. I'm so excited. How are you? I know it must suck, but well done, you.
Now, what did you start to see differently about the way you were living and working with the second diagnosis?
Oh, that was fun, that one. Because I was coming out of the 5-year mark of the first cancer, which was curable, breast cancer. And nobody expected what they found, which was a blood cancer, which is incurable. That literally, you can't even say brought to your knees. Worse, I was literally on the floor, because that involved a prognosis, which I didn't ask for, a number, I didn't ask to hear it, just was told it. And knowing they said, this time, Bron, it's a marathon. It doesn't end, which means for me, treatment is forever. So that is it was a very, very difficult time, because you've got major trauma, remembering I have 5 sons. And they've already gone through watching their mum suffer from the treatment of cancer. And now here we go again. And no, you'll get a week warning. I wanted time. I wanted time to process. That's all I begged for. I got a week. So that was chemotherapy again, and then stem cell transplant. So yes, I've been in hospital for a month too. In a very, stem cell transplant, which is where they harvest your baby stem cells, and then for me, gave back my shitty old stem cells again, and cleaned, but it gave back my own, because the risk of having someone with myeloma is too great on life. So it's a very tough time, and I had to dig deep for myself. I could no longer care for others. I had to and this was not a selfish thing. This was just survival of doing the best I could with what I had. Some days were good, some days were bad, but it gave time for reflection on how was I going to be? If I had a life-limiting illness, how do I want to show up? How do I want to live? What do I want to demonstrate to my kids, to my family, my friends?
Yeah, that's not an easy journey.
No, I can't recommend it.
No. I always have a fear of getting into a flare up, and I don't know if it's going to get worse. I had this since I was 18, and I understand I have 3 boys myself. And looking at that meal that I know could probably wreck me, and I'm like, I can't do that. My kids can't see me doing this to myself, and then wanting to just sit there and say, oh, feel sorry for me or XYZ, is like, no, just do better for yourself, make better choices. And even though it's not as serious as what you're putting on display for all the listeners, it's a mind state to know that, you know what, I'm putting myself first. I'm putting myself first, because it would still benefit those that love me for whatever time. My diagnosis could change in a heartbeat. I can go from mild to serious, and under resection, medication, XYZ, and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
That's right. And that's why we talk about finding the courage to change the things you can change. So one way I liken it, so, insert your own adversity, people. Whatever your adversity is, imagine getting your phone out and you've got the maps open, and you put in the destination of healing, right? Because whether you're healing from a financial problem, a divorce, an illness, a mental illness, it doesn't matter what it is, cancer, it doesn't matter what it is. Everyone can go on a path of healing. So imagine getting out your phone and you're going to type in the word healing into your maps. What does it do? It gives you a blue line, gives you a path, which means you only need to worry about the next thing. You don't need to worry about 5 years from now or 10 years from now. You just need to worry about the next thing, the next turn, the next piece of straight road, right? So when you're going along and something happens, in my world, I call them left-hand turns, or when something that is not what you want, this could be the same thing as putting in, you could put business success at the top there. Doesn't matter what you're going to. I'm using the word healing because if people can look at healing as a way to be the best for themselves. So you've got this left-hand turn and you've got a roadblock. What does the map do? The map recalibrates and it's going to find you, no matter what, it'll find you another way. It doesn't say, oh, I don't know where to go. But it doesn't. It will always find a way. So that's why if we put healing, insert, healing, I think, is the best word, even if you don't have an adversity such as mine, but there will be an adversity of some description, growing your business, not enough clients, put whatever you want as your destination. It will always find a way if you believe that. I have a saying, I don't know how, but I know I will. I don't know the way, I don't know the solution, but if I follow my blue line, guess what? I'm not going to get lost. Might go places I didn't want to go to, but I will always, always have a direction and I will always know what the next thing is. And that is the whole fundamental, that's why Serenity Project is there in the first place, specifically for those going through cancer, but you could equally put that into business. I just chose to put it into a place that unfortunately have a lot of experience.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
That it does because it's whether it's with my health, whether it's with my passion, my career, it's always there has to be a way. There has to be a way. Like whether it's finding a new program or things like that, or with like how you do with the marketing and social media, there's always a way. There's always a way, and I will find something that speaks my language that I can understand it much better. And there always is a path.
There's always a path, even when you don't know what the path is. But it's the belief, the absolute belief in myself that I don't know how, but I know I will. And then guess what? The next step always shows itself. Always. Think of it, as I said, if you can just think of the blue line, I use that blue line analogy because people understand what it's like because they use maps in their cars and it's no different. No different at all.
You said that hustle culture teaches us to override the body until it screams. Looking back, what were some of the signals your body was sending before cancer and complete exhaustion?
Look, I had built a mentoring business where I did end-to-end because obviously I brought in my marketing experience. So we did from lead generation to lead nurture to sales and conversion to lead delivery to referrals and upsells. They're the 5 main pillars that I would teach in business and do myself. And we had mastermind programs, we had retreats, we had events, we had workshops, we had online courses. I did all the things that the gurus tell you to do. Did it all. Followed, good girl, I follow the rules because that's what nurses do. If you don't, you can kill someone, right? So you follow the rules. I didn't know any different. I didn't know any different. But as I was growing that thing, the best way I liken it, and people will often hear me talking about this, I call it the saber-toothed tiger, right? So the business when it started was a little kitty cat and I picked it up from the pet shop and I've got this gorgeous little cat and he's so cute and I'm going, oh, hello, little kitty cat. You are so cute. I love you. This is exactly what I need. So I get home and then this thing starts to eat and grow, which is my energy and time, might I add. So I'm growing this beast. The beast is my business. And before I know it, I'm on the back of that saber-toothed tiger and I'm holding on for dear life because I know that if I fall off, the damn thing's going to eat me. So I built a business model that did not serve and support me. And I knew, because my intuition told me so many times, it did not feel right. So, and believe whatever you will, when you stop and pause enough and think to allow yourself presence. Best way to do that, people, is just literally look where your feet are. My favorite saying is be where your feet are. That's my favorite quote. Be where your feet are. And you sit here and you go, how does it feel? How does this business feel for me? And the words I would have used: heavy, hard, dragging people along. I was more vested in their businesses and they were invested in their business. It was heavy and hard. And I didn't listen because I was following the gurus, and the gurus told me this is what you do. This is how you hustle until you die. And that is when I had that epiphany where my life literally flashed before my eyes and I went, no. Thank you, saber-toothed tiger, but you're going back to the zoo where you belong, and we're going to do something else that is way more in alignment with Bron, and it is not a tiger. So I'll never, ever build a beast again, because that's the way I liken it. That's my analogy for creating something that was not a fit for me at a soulful level.
I've been there so many times, especially with going through my whatever it is at the time with my life, and I knew this was my passion because you never let it go. It's something that is always in the
No.
back of my mind. Yeah, and sitting there, like, I would go into my backyard coming up with my questions, and I'm like, how am I gonna do this? Like, am I gonna make an impact, or X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, said, F it, let me just go. Let me just do it. Let me just do it, see how it is. And I'm not here to please the world.
And you're
I'm
not.
I'm here, even that old saying of, even if I help one person, that's that just means the world to me.
Well, then your job is done. But we just don't know who that person is. And the message isn't for everyone. My message isn't for everyone. Gosh, a lot of people run away when you use the word, the big C word. Do I look scary? No, but that's okay. I respect and honor someone else's belief because it's their belief, not mine. So I will not allow that energy anywhere near me.
I can't tell you how many. Go ahead, please continue.
Yeah. No, you go. Because I mean, I know because it can be employment, it can be jobs. It doesn't have to be but as an entrepreneur, right, you are responsible, and you are, when you're the owner, you're as good as your last invoice. So there's a lot of pressure there. And especially if you haven't quite nailed exactly what you should be doing.
Exactly. You never.
Because you can, no.
Yeah, you never know how it's going to turn out and how the effect you would have. I can tell you, like, I've had plenty of people, they hear the name of the podcast and they're like, I'm not damaged. Why do you want to interview me? I'm like, that's not the point of the show. It's just, take me on your ride. Take me on your, let me see your life. Let me, how we say, like, I want you to drop some jewels. I want you to drop some gems and let other people experience that and take that with them, because how people have that internal conversation, when it's external, you don't know how that can vibe with certain people and just pluck their string, and they're like, you could kind of hear, you could see them like perk up their ears, like, what else you got to say? I'm kind of going through the same thing, but they're not ready for their journey yet. They're so internal. And
correct. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, especially with people going through a cancer diagnosis and going through treatment. If they're going through it for the first time, they don't know what to expect, and they're not ready to say, okay, yeah, I know there's a bunch of groups out there, this and that and XYZ, but that's why you have the advocates in the hospital that says, give them a bunch of pamphlets. There's all these things available. Okay, these don't ring my bell. What else is there? Okay, get curious. That's why I love what I do, because I preface it with, I want to help people get curious about their healing, even if they're not ready for it. Because I was never ready. I was never ready for my healing. I didn't know if I was going to heal. And with my background, I am a survivor of sexual assault. And, I've carried that with me for decades. And to finally, in my 40s, let that go and discover who I am when that weight was on me, I'm like, why? And I tell myself, I'm like, why the hell am I going to go on it? Why am I going on this journey at so far in my life? And, I should be sunsetting my life soon. And then doing all of this. And then I'm like, wow, I'm like, I don't know who I am. I only know who I was because I was reacting to a trauma. And I'm like, crap, I got to discover myself, who I really am before that all happened. And there's untold number of people that are going through that. There's so many. I said one time in an interview, I said, we're healing backwards.
Yes.
They
Yep.
said, what do you mean? I said, the people generations before us didn't have the tools that we have now, and they're healing themselves at an older age, and we're healing backwards. And it's amazing to me because there are still those generations that they're stuck in that past, I guess, setup of their lives. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. When no, it's not a certain way. You're not stuck in anything. And we're realizing that now. But to
We
pull
are.
the, yeah, but to pull those people who are in that, whether it's cancer or whether it's disability or anything else, it's to see them realize that, you know what, it's like, damn, like I wish the older generations had this ability to go through all these healing processes, EMDR, therapy, and
But it's never
everything
too
else.
late, though. It's never too
Exactly.
late. It's
Exactly.
never too late. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what's going on. Everyone, every single person on this planet, if they choose to look inwards, slow down enough, be quiet enough, and listen to the pause. Everybody can listen to a pause because they know the answer if they would just stop long enough to listen it. But it's connecting your head with your heart, with your gut and your soul. And that can be scary for someone who's never done that. I mean, I've spoken to a girl just the other day. She'd be sub 40 and her mum passed away. And I used to work with her mum years ago. Her mum passed away, but she had zero connection between her head, nursing head, and her heart. And I was saddened for her, but it's not my job. It's not my job to open up that pathway. It's up to her to go, is this the way I want it to be? And so it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how, especially for, I had someone say to me, because I am in social media marketing, don't you think you're a bit old for that? I said, thank you so much for your feedback. It's actually my superpower. You moron. Didn't say that part. It's like, it's my superpower. It's like, what, do you really think people are different? Do you really think that when we were rocking out in the 80s to Queen, do you really think they're any different? They're not. People are people. Fundamentally, people want to be loved and connected. Full stop. So therefore, our job is to create openness. And for you, you're creating awareness in a different field, but it's the same because trauma is trauma. And how we unpack that and we live through it. That's why I'm saying cancer, we're living through it. We're living through whatever is happening in your life. And that, I believe, is just so powerful if someone is willing enough to slow down and actually value themselves enough without worrying about what everyone else thinks. Because what everyone else thinks is absolutely none of your business, just putting it out there.
and
You can't control it. You can't
can't
control it.
And you see the youth who try to be people pleasers, and no, everybody has to like this. And if one negative comment, it's like, come on, like, don't read the comments. And on top of that, you have someone who may not have even started, correcting themselves in a sense of like, I need to heal better. I've been through stuff. I don't acknowledge it, but I'm going to spit venom on everybody else if they're not aligned with how I see the world, when the way you see the
Yes.
world is so very negative.
Correct. And also, just so you know, with your parents did the best they could with what they had. And for a lot of parents, they didn't have a lot of good stuff. And they learnt it from the previous generation, which is what you're talking about. And that multi-generational trauma that gets passed down and down Doesn't mean it have to continue, you know, like my older kids. So I've got kids between 16 and 27. So the older three boys, 24, 25, 27, have a different world than the 20-year-old and the 16-year-old, because I'm a better version of me. Everyone's I'm getting the benefit for me. Let's just put it out first. But the demonstration of that is like a ripple effect. So just because of the way you're raised, or just because your parents, you can't blame them for everything. One. Two, you know, if you don't like something about yourself, go and have a little review. Go and look inside. Don't you think?
Self-analyzation. Everyone has to do that. They have to do that.
And even when you have a trauma that has nothing, you didn't ask for it. You didn't ask for it. I didn't ask for it. We didn't. It's not our fault. But how are we going to go from there? It's the next thing. The way, you know, I liken it to like a basketball game, right? I don't know. I played basketball, believe it or not. So I played basketball, and you'd play the game and you'd be doing the thing, right? And your team would miss the shot, and you come back and you do the huddle. You can either worry about what you just missed, or you can go the next thing. What's the next play? Not the next game, not the next season, not the next this, not the next that, but what's the next play? So when things happen, and people say to me I had someone say to me that it was my loveless lifestyle choices, which is why I got cancer, because I didn't look after myself enough. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, tough. I'm literally lying in a hospital bed and I get that email. Bron, it's your loveless lifestyle choices. I kid you not. Did it traumatize me? Absolutely. Do I own it? No. Because it's not real. It's their judgment. It's their belief. Great. You can believe like that. I choose not to. My belief is bad shit happens to really good people. But it's what we do next. It's the next play that matters, because can't change that. That's why I say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The courage is the next play. What's your next play? So if you don't like something in your life, please be where your feet are. And what's your next play?
and with your current play, the Serenity Project, it grew out of your own experience of what you've been describing, the fear, the treatment, parenting, running a business at the same time. What problems were you trying to solve that eventually became the heart of this work?
I think the biggest problem I faced at that time was coming to terms with a life-limiting illness. And how was I going to live through that without being cancer? Because I didn't want to be my diagnosis. And I don't believe in that diagnosis because of the way technology is changing. So I worked through learning what I couldn't change, finding the courage to change the things I can, all up here, and choosing whatever was right for me. Because just because I didn't go alternative treatment, I hate that word, alternative. It's not alternative. It's just treatment. It's not an either or an or. It's whatever because whatever you choose is going to be right for you, but it doesn't mean it's right for everyone else. So I say to people, find your serenity, not mine. You don't need Bron's serenity. You need your serenity, whatever that looks like. And no, it doesn't happen like that. It's taken me years to learn. So I've made peace with longevity. I now have learned, I've taught myself how to arrive at the Cancer Institute every month without having a heart attack from 2 days before. Now the anxiety doesn't kick until I'm just walking in the door. And even then I'm sitting there without the projection of what possibly could go wrong playing. Because I don't know yet. I literally have taught myself, do not give myself energy to worry about things that haven't happened yet. I only have now. And what's the next play? The next play is when I'm walking in there calm, I'm prepared, and I have an open heart and an open spirit.
How often is that fight between perspective and perception with what you're going through?
All the time. Because that's why there's Serenity Now moments. Because we have good days, we have bad days, we have good moments, we have bad moments. I've had a really tough month, to be honest, because there are some uncertainties around the bloods right now. and remission and relapse and all of the words that they don't like to use, right? And it's accepting that. If you want to, and I literally say, feel the feels, like whatever the moment is, feel it. And then give it a name. Because when you give it a name, psychologically, you are separating yourself. So if it's fear, sadness, insert whatever word. I actually have cards. They're called Serenity Now cards to help people name what they're feeling. And then we want to control the controllables, because you can't control it all. I cannot control that I will not be seeing my specialist until the 10th of March. I cannot control that I'm doing whatever in your business or like insert something in your life. So then we pause. I reflect of what is really going on there. And then I respond. I do not react. And I might have to do that time and time again. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. But what it does is it builds muscle. It builds neuro pathways, literally, in ways to be able to manage the now without worrying about the past and not worrying about the future, which is out of everybody's control, because tomorrow is not guaranteed to anyone.
Absolutely. And from my experiences as being someone who is coming from a trauma at a young age, and that is something, anger is one thing, and that is the theme for a lot of people with their responses, and it was with mine, and it is to a point where me recognizing that, and I was in yesterday's interview, that was eye opening when I discovered, I said, okay, I've been through trauma, and I wasn't being very nice to my kids when I would get triggered by something. And then I said, oh shit. I said, I do, I went through my trauma, but I don't want to be their trauma. And I'm living that, I'm experiencing that in real time when other people in other generations, they were just feeling what they were feeling and acting out, and others were the victim of it with the anger and everything else and abuse. And I said, crap, I'm going to be their trauma. They're going to be in my position when they're older, talking to someone, talking about my asshole dad did this and XYZ. And I said, they're still young enough. And I'm like, oh God, I'm like, no. So changing that stance, and it took a long time.
It takes practice.
It does.
It does take, and so when a trigger happens, this is what I've learnt. When a trigger happens, you're getting angry, you're responding to something. Ask the question. So when you get triggered and something happens and you get that feeling, right? Frustration, anger, is to hold it up like a mirror and get curious. What's really going on? Where am I doing that to myself? And when you start to, that's the pause, right? And when you start to reflect on that trigger, when you take the time to dig down underneath the anger and the resentment and the frustrations, it's going to come from sadness. Loss,
who's showing up at the moment, like what part of me in my life is showing up at the moment. And even I do tell myself, I said, you know what, my reaction initially is my honest reaction, but is it the right reaction? And that has been pulling me back to call myself on it, like, okay, you're upset, you're mad, and that's okay. Now, is it the right way to act that way to a child and have them feel that? Like, no, okay.
No, it is not. It's
Pull
not.
it back.
And that's, and if you teach your kids that, to be able to self-regulate, to be able to acknowledge their own triggers and learn to get curious about where and what that comes from, and then find the feeling of what that, because it's not anger. Anger is just a Band-Aid, because that's what you learnt. And remembering we're only, have compassion. We're doing the best we can with what we've had. You know, I lived in an angry household. So I have spent my life making sure there is no anger around me. And how do you think sugarcoating everything goes down? It doesn't. So it's about the triggers and understanding the trigger is your responsibility. It is not theirs. It is not someone else. If you haven't read Let Them by Mel Robbins, perhaps have a little look. The first half of the book. It's really important to understand let them. And with children, it's different because with children, we're wanting to be the best versions of themselves. As a mother of 5 boys, I'm allowed to say that. And I feel if we can be the demonstration of being the best version of ourselves,
oh yeah,
they will automatically learn from that rather than being told, which is what, I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up, that's what I grew up in, is parents doing the best they can with anger that they never dealt with. Because it's coming from somewhere. It's coming from somewhere, and just own it. And that's not easy, especially when you didn't ask for it. It's just the way it's been. Does that make sense? Does that make
it
sense?
does. No, it does. I grew up in a single family household, so dealing with all of that, the triggers, like you don't know what's going on, walking on eggshells and things of that nature. So it's refreshing to me that I catch myself early enough to know that I take my kids to do Pokemon. I take my kids to what do you want to do and X, Y, and Z, and they're to see them revel in it. And I'm lucky enough to know, like I'm sure you've experienced that where your kids are growing up and you hear their real laughter. Like I would talk to my
The
wife,
belly
I'm like,
laughter.
yeah, like I like
The belly laughter and
do you know how they
yeah.
just like have you heard their real laugh? And she's like, yeah, no, it's great. And having that, so it even though I don't wallow in like, okay, I shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that.
No.
I'm fostering now, like, okay, I'm getting to know them better, their personalities, and but granted, I have a 15, a 13, and a no,
Oh my God.
a 15, a 12, and a 5-year old.
Wow.
And yeah, and
It's
so
all right. The 15, you're getting there, another year or two, and they'll be over the worst of it. The grunting and the back chatting will cease. It will calm down eventually. But it's the thing, right? And boundaries. There's your boundary of what is acceptable and what is not, which is different to a trigger. Let's just clarify that in that. I believe for me. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. As in, I've got a 16-year-old and he's the youngest of 5. So imagine how he's going. I call him the golden child, but he's not really.
my 15-year-old, he's a sweetheart, and he's gone through a lot, and that was the one that was in the accident and other things
Yeah.
as well. And I see now it's like, okay, I'm gonna foster that goodness in him and let him know, look, everything's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. And I learned that recently too by interviewing a doctor. He's like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with any of us. We're perfect human beings that've gone through certain experiences. And once we understand that, you know what, we're good, we need to process what we've been through, and then we can be the better versions of ourselves.
That's it. And you know what? I think that comes back to self-awareness and responsibility in that space, that we are doing the best we can with what we have. And that's where it comes to self-reflection, which is cool. If there's something that you don't like, well, it's up to you to change it. And yeah, and when you throw on adversity, it does get complicated.
Yeah, and then you're right. That self audit is key.
It is key.
Yeah. You talk about choosing being overdoing and building a healing rhythm that works with your body, and you've given us such amazing examples. And when you work with your body and not against it, what is your choosing mechanism?
The choosing mechanism, I believe, for me, is that when it comes to health, wellness, fighting against cancer, living through trauma, all of the things, there's a lot of control. All right. Do this, do that, get up at 5 o'clock, meditate for 45 minutes, walk for 45 minutes, don't eat sugar, be vegan, don't be vegan. There's a lot of information and a lot of control, right? Because if you are setting yourself all of these things to do and you tick them off like a calendar appointment, there's control in that, because what happens if you miss it? What if you don't feel well? Versus choosing the few things that are worthy of and giving yourself grace. So for example, I consciously choose to journal every day. Do I journal every day? No. I'm up to day 41 since October, so I can't be that far out. I'm so out, right? But if I had set it in my diary, think of there's a thing out there with a 7 and a 5 in it, and the word hard. I don't like to bag any system, but there's a lot of discipline. People call it discipline. A lot of discipline. There's so much of that, but when it comes to healing and you throw on the layer of discipline, which is control, you've lost the point. Because what if you really do need to sit and pat the dog for 5 minutes and not worry about journaling? Doesn't matter if I haven't, because I did what was right for me in the moment. Does that make sense? So to me, a human being is not a human doing. If we're a human being and we are where our feet are and we focus on the next play, that doesn't mean we just, that's not, I can't be bothered today, can't be doing anything. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is following my healing GPS, but I haven't got a timeline on it. So my actions back in the day where I was to deliver exactly what I said I was going to deliver when I said I was going to deliver it. Same difference is I absolutely deliver what I say I'm going to deliver, but on Bron's timeline now, which is not written in black and white and not put in the calendar. Because if I'm not well, or if it's not a good day because I've had a bad result or whatever, that's okay. Do it tomorrow, which is different to procrastinating because you can't be bothered. Because I'm not putting it off because I'm not valuing myself. I'm actually putting it off because I do value myself and know that is the right way. Is it a little complicated and grey? Yes. So that's why serenity are moments in time. They are not all day, every day. You don't sit there and meditate for 5 hours unless you want to. If you want to put that 5 a.m. plan into, you put it in, great, if it's right for you. But it doesn't mean it's right for me.
That's right. And you're right. Finding your rhythm, finding what speaks to you. That's why I miss the summer times, because if I've had a rough day, I would just go into my backyard, watch the sun go down, get the breeze, hear the birds. Like I'm from New York City, but I live in Westchester, right above. Don't know if you know the region.
I do.
And so moving from the South Bronx to Northern Yonkers, it's very different. It's first time a funny quick story is we were driving, and it was the first month that we moved in, and one of my middle child, Max, he looks through the between us, while we were driving. He goes, somebody lost a rabbit. And we're like, what are you talking about? He goes, look, it's right there. It's in the road. We're like, no, it's like, buddy, that's how it is around here. That's a wild rabbit. It's just, living out in nature. And he's just, really? So that made my wife and I smile, because they're experiencing nature. Granted, suburban nature, but they're experiencing nature. And coming home, sitting in the back, buying bird seed to feed the birds and seeing them experiencing life. We actually put up 4 nests, so hung them up in the back. And when I opened them up, we see the birds go in and out. We're like, oh man, we feel like grandparents, because we're fostering kids of
babies.
Yeah, exactly, and experiencing that and all these other things. And it's a different perspective, and I love that. Coming from where I'm from, and now being in a home, owning trees. I have 2 trees on my property, and it's a different feel. It makes your heart a little more connected to yourself and nature, and giving me that different perspective. And having that, it makes you move differently, and it makes you want to impart that to other people, to say, hey, get off of that little wheel that you're running in, and understand that there's different ways. Like, we rarely go to the city anymore. We find different places around us to explore and to experience, and it's been eye-opening because city living isn't really natural. And New York, the way it is, no matter how many trees and parks you put into it, the older you get, you just like it's not natural. And when you live in a suburban area, when you live in nature, and then you go out to other places where it's even more spread out, you're like, this feels better. I love walking out when I used to leave the house at like 5 in the morning and it's still dark. You see all the stars, and things like that. Is that feeling, and it's like, no, this feels right.
Mm.
And getting that
It's
connection with nature.
that's it. Well, the Japanese call it forest healing, where you literally get into nature and you just be. So this is where you be where your feet are. So no matter where your nature is, just be where your feet are. And yeah, that's it. And for those people who can't get out to nature, find where they can have those feelings of the absolute of what nature and the environment can give. And it's just, I used to have a chemotherapy and I'd go walking on the beach because I wanted the water to literally, it's so weird, but suck out the toxins out of my feet. Did it do that? Of course it didn't. But what it gave me was that feeling of releasing some of that toxin. So it's finding your thing, whatever your thing is.
And you've sat on stages around the world sharing your story as both a warning and an invitation. What has that audience taught you about how many people are silently at their breaking points? And it's that reflection of how you
Ooh.
imparts all this wisdom onto people with your experiences. And it's interesting, like, what do they reflect back?
What I hear back is there is so, I don't like to use the word suffering, but there are so many under duress from whatever the pressure of life is bringing, because it's pretty busy these days. People talk about being busy, but then they don't own their own business. So what I feel back is that there's so many people who are under duress, and please find and give yourself compassion, because you are doing the best you can with what you have. But just pretend we're all playing basketball and we're all this massive team and we're working out what's the next play. And the next play is for you. You're the guard, you're the center, you're off, you're having some time out. You're the water guy. It's whatever that looks like is exactly what you're meant to be. And if the longer you leave it, it's not going to go away. It will not go away unless you take responsibility of yourself. And if you are under duress, I feel you. I so feel you. I feel it because I know it, and I just sending you the good vibes. But just in this moment, be where your feet are and start there. That's your starting point.
And if they're in stuck in that kind of grind mode, and being aware of where they are right now, is there any other words of advice you can give them? Because you can meet that resistance when you talk to them. They just don't budge.
Yeah. What I feel is there are those people who are looking for more, those who are looking to create something new, and then there are those who will just stay stuck and they will not take responsibility for their own feelings and life, blame everybody else around them. I can't help them. I just can't help them until one day when if they wake up and they go, hey, I remember that girl, that one from Australia, when she said, be where your feet are. One day, I hope and pray that penny will drop for that person. But if it doesn't, I can't, to me, it's about creating awareness for someone to be aware. If they don't want to be aware, that is absolutely their decision, because every decision every time you do not make a decision, you are making a decision. So I focus on the people. For me, I focus on a community where people are looking for ways to be the best for themselves, to be the best human beings they can be for themselves, which will automatically provide a ripple effect, and that we collectively can be part of, be part of a community that actually gives a damn. I can't fix it for anyone until they're prepared to fix it for themselves. Cannot do a thing. And I don't own it. It's like, thank you. I feel for you.
I'm lucky enough to, you know, and it's funny though, because when you were explaining that, I'm thinking like, okay, my wife is like that to me. She's not the penny that drops. She's actually like a sock full of pennies that whacks me over the head. Because when I'm in that sort of thing, like, okay, I have an interview set up, they canceled on me or they ghosted me, and then I'm like, what the hell is the matter with them and this and that? Like, I do that, blame them. And then that was at the early point, and then she's like, well, something could have happened. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, why am I getting annoyed at her being the voice of reason? And it
Because she's being the mirror and you didn't want one right then.
exactly. But then I luckily, me being in my journey, I pull myself back. I'm like, look, I know I'm just venting. I've done it myself. I've been in a position where I'm not feeling too well, or I've had a crappy day and I have to interview someone and I don't know how their personality is going to be. And I hit them up and say, hey, look, can we reschedule or XYZ? And so I'm like, I said, look, I get it. I understand. I know. I just needed to blame somebody for a little bit and then get back to my understanding self, my grace. I give them grace, give myself grace, and I'm like, okay, like I just needed to in a sense decompress.
Absolutely.
And
I call it a pity party, right? Have a pity party, throw the tantrum, but don't stay there. And don't blame
exactly.
everyone else. It's your pity party. You have your pity party. Like I'll say to my husband, don't try to fix it. There's nothing to fix here. I'm just having a bad day, and either I'm crying or I got I'm more annoyed or I got the shits. Having a pity party, it is completely normal, but don't stay there.
Yeah.
Do not
And
become the victim.
and it's funny you say that too, because like I had to learn from her. She was like, you don't have to fix everything. And I said, well, as a man, sometimes we do want to fix, but then she shined light on it and says, look, I just want you to listen. And I'm like,
That's it.
okay. I said, but you know that there's a part of me that is like, this is how you fix it. This is how you fix it. I'm like, all right, I'll shut the hell up. What's going on? I'm all ears. And then I love to twist it around and say, okay, I tell her something's going on. She's like, why don't you do this or that? Huh? Hold on. I just want you to listen. I didn't ask you to fix it.
Exactly.
So it's like it's
Exactly.
turning. She loses that and turning the tables, and it's like and then I said I learned that from you. I learned it from you. I just need you to listen to me. I just need you to listen, no matter how hard you want to say, this is how you fix it, or this is where you need to be understanding. And I'm like, well, I get it, but this is where you need to listen. And a lot of people need that sounding board.
Mm.
So when they're letting it go, it's like, okay, I got you. Like, can I say something? Can I offer some advice? Can I offer a perspective? Yes. Other side, no. But thank you
No,
for
that's
hearing
right.
me. Yeah, like I'm not
And
ready
it's
for
not
it yet.
personal. It's not
Nope.
personal.
Nope.
You can't fix it. Sometimes if I'm having a bad day and I'm crying or whatever, can't fix it. And I said, I'm going to be right. I'm going to be I'm absolutely okay, but I'm not okay. Does it make sense? So I'm not okay, but I'm absolutely okay, because this is a human response to the longevity of carrying a marathon of an illness behind me. So that's my load. We all have different loads, and sometimes you do want someone just to listen. Don't fix it. Acknowledgement, guys. If you could just acknowledge, I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. And like what you're doing, can I offer a da-da-da? The answer is no. Great, cool, no worries. Don't try to push it.
I do
Love
that.
it.
Yeah, I do that a lot when I speak with people, because I'm in IT and I deal with a lot of people. And when they go ranting and raving, I'm like, are you done? Okay. I'm sorry you're going through that. And do my whole spiel, and then you see them like, oh my god, you listened to me, and I'm
Yeah.
able to get this out without having a confrontation. And I'm like, yeah, what you're going through is not my fault, but
No.
yes, we all need to be listened to, or we all need to be heard. and I want to provide space for you. And that's very rare. And it's wild to me to be like, understanding that this is something that you want and then you don't provide that to another person, especially someone close to you. And it's wild to me because you know what you want, and 9 times out of 10 what that other person wants is the same thing, especially when you're in the same household. Like you said, yeah, it's always a mirror, and you're
It
holding
is
a
a
mirror
mirror,
up to each other.
that's it. And I think that's where we hold ourselves responsible and accountable for our behaviors and that's why I say respond, because I'm allowing my pause, I'm allowing my time to reflect, to be able to respond versus react.
And Bron, I've gotten so much wisdom from you, and I understand from the position that with what you're going through, because I've through in a my own way going through the same thing. The wisdom just comes through because the self-reflection is just constant. And
Constant.
so where can people connect with you, learn more about the Serenity Project, and follow your podcast and speaking work if they're ready to explore this idea of resilience that doesn't require self-destruction?
I think the easiest thing is just head on over to serenityproject.com.au. We do a newsletter. It's called The Check-In. Just sign up for that if it resonates. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, hook me up, send me a message. More than happy. Even on the website, I have a tool that you can actually record your message to me, so you don't even need to type if you don't want to. I will always reply. So, any questions, please send them through. Always love to provide the clarity that people are looking for.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much for your time, your insight, your wisdom. This is the perfect way of how I love when someone who is living their life the way they want to give their perspective on everything that they've been through, and witnessing your healing journey and the wisdom that comes from it is nothing short of amazing. And I really appreciate you wanting to be on my show. And this was a very solid episode. I love it. Thank you. And I really appreciate your time.
Well, I thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Oscar. That was an insightful episode. If you've been white-knuckling your way through life, telling yourself, "At least I'm still standing," Bron's journey makes you ask whether that's really enough. We heard how she juggled chemo, motherhood, and clients until her body and reflection forced a hard reset, and how she began treating herself with the same care she once reserved only for patients and customers. She talked about self-trust, slowing down, breaking life patterns, and why it's never too late to connect your head, heart, and gut, even if you're starting in midlife after a diagnosis. She shows us how to move from survival mode into a life that actually feels like yours. Adelante, siempre por tu mente. Forward, always for your mind. This is the FY I Am Damaged podcast.
In a bright green jungle where the tall trees sway, lived a little elephant who felt big feelings. Every day Logan loved to splash and play by the riverside, with sometimes wobbly legs made him wanna run and hide. Tummy doing flips like a stormy shaking drum. A tiny voice inside him whispered, "What if I can't have fun?" Then Brandon the wise monkey smiled from the tree, said, "Little friend, take a breath, come and sit with me. Feel your feet on the ground, feel your hand on your heart. We're breathing together, that's how courage starts. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, let it out with a wish. When my mind feels wiggly like a monkey in the trees, I calm my heart down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Step by step forward through this, scared and the what if. Even when my tummy feels funny and tight, I can still be brave, I can still shine bright. Next day in the jungle they played a game of tag. Logan felt the nervous pull, his body started started to drag, but he remembered Brandon and the tools he had inside. Took a deep, gentle breath instead of running off to hide. Breathe in the sunshine, breathe out all the fear. Stomped his big elephant feet and felt his courage appear. With the wiggle of his trunk and a laugh so free, whispered to himself, there's a lion heart in me. His friends saw him smiling as he joined in the game. They asked, Logan, what's your secret? You don't look the same. He said, when my thoughts get loud, I don't have to stay small. I breathe and move my body and I stand up tall. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, let it out with a wish. When my mind be wiggly like a monkey in the trees, I calm my heart down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this step by step forward through the skin and the what if. Even when my tummy feels funny and tight, I can still be brave. I can still shine bright. Little heart listening, this song is for you. It's okay to feel scared, that feeling's true. But just like Logan in the jungle so wide, you've got quiet, steady strength living inside. So breathe in slowly, feel your feet on the floor. Let your shoulders soften, you don't need to. Whisper to yourself when the worries rush through. I am strong, I am safe, and I know what to do. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, lay it out with a wish. When my mind feels wiggly like a monkey in the trees, I calm my heart down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this step by step forward through the skin and know what is. Logan showed the jungle and I show the world. There's a strong lighted hero in every boy and girl in the bright green jungle. When the stars shine above, brave little hearts fall asleep, feeling safe and loved.